a special preview of the upcoming week matchups, updated power rankings that may shock you, and a special guest appearance that was going to give insight to one of our beloved owners. I'm Jacoby, and this is the Triple G Podcast. All right, lots to get to today. Super excited to be back here with you on this beautiful Thursday, excuse me. It's going to be a long podcast, folks. Today is Thursday. It's Eagles-Giants tonight, which we're watching live from the studio here. It's turning into a game and a half so far. Really exciting. Sky was so beautiful today. It was that beautiful open sun that we all stopped. I saw people taking pictures of the sunset on their way home. If the sky was any more open, you would think it was going up against the Chiefs defense. All right, that's my jokes for today. But no, seriously, I'm coming back to you. As you guys have noticed, there's a lacking amount of man voice in the podcast, as my co-host Mike O'Brien is out this week. He's taking his bye week. So much like Andrew Luck, I'm going to try to get through this without any help. So let's get into it. We got a pretty good episode here for you today. Starting off with just a little recap of what's been going on. So let's take a look at last week's matchups. You're going to have to give me a little bit of room here, as I do have to click on everything by myself. So let's get started here. First matchup to talk about, that's me and Joe. Not really a close matchup there. Pretty disappointing all around. Pulling off that big upset against Mike was really great for me. But now going up against Joe, it just didn't pan out, didn't have that same level of competition. That was a short-lived little amount of success. The biggest takeaways with that is just that Joe putting in Eric Ebron is kind of bull crap because he was Joe's top scorer. I got nothing out of my Amari Cooper play, which was pretty disappointing, only 2 freaking points. So after pulling off the biggest upset in the league history, beating Mike, I lost.
Suck again! Oh, no! We suck again! Oh, no!
And so that was a pretty hard blow. But, I'm back on the bottom where I like it. There's no hope down here, but it's peaceful to be able to just be the guy who talks about sports, even though he can't compete, and kind of the Rex Ryan of the podcast, if we will. But moving on from my matchup. Oh, congrats to Joe, of course. I always want to give a big shout out to the person who beat me. Let's go on here to the matchup between John and who was he playing here? Kevin. Yeah, this is actually the biggest shocker of the week here, as John did pull off that win. I'm excited about John's team right now. He is one of the most exciting owners to watch in this league. Week after week, continues to impress me. Some flashy stuff at the draft that's really coming into fruition here. This is a team that I'm excited about moving forward. He's straight up moneyballing it with a tight end in the flex there. Looking at the undervalued position, and then being able to exploit the league for that. I like that. That's some good stuff. Kevin, just some tough breaks all around. These weeks come, nothing to be hang your head about, Kevin. Jordan Reed, disappearing, going into hibernation there, and there's just nothing you can do about that when your stars don't perform. So don't panic, Kevin. These things happen. Let's take a trip down to Ramsey Town and look at the matchup between Andy and Ramsey this past week. Andy, I got to give it to you. That was well fought. I think you deserve the win here. Ramsey only put up 13 collective points from his flex position there. Kind of disappointing there. But the thing that affected Andy here and the reason he took the L was just because he kind of got goose-egged by his Rams players, people that you want to expect to count on, people that you think you can count on week in and week out. Looking over at his team, there's just nothing you could do when you're just getting defeated like that. And you got Brandon Cooks, 0 points, Rams defense, 0 points. You just expect that to give you a little bit more. I think Brandon Cooks was out, so that's why that is the way it is. But Yeah, definitely a big win for Ramsey as he kind of solidifies his spot among the stars there. Let's move on to the final matchup of last week where we have Troy and Mike. This is a master matchup, but he is a master of none when it comes to playing fantasy. Troy struggles again as he only puts up 124 points, making this the biggest blowout of the week, as Mike, the top dog, the grand salami of the league, continues to flex his power with a 199.9 performance, which, for those of you who don't know math, is nearly 200 points, give or take. There's nothing that really you can say about this. Mike's getting production from pretty much everything on his roster. If you look at his roster, I encourage you to go look at it sometime when you're sad. It will make you happy that this type of roster can exist. Take a look at it. There's no weak spots anywhere. Quarterback, play, amazing. You got Drew Brees, Roethlisberger putting up massive points. You want a perspective? He got 16 points from his kicker. 16 points from his kicker. That would have been one of the best players on Troy's team. There's nothing really you can say about this. Troy, he's got some holes. I won't pull punches. He has some holes on his roster here. It looks like the only person who actually was productive was his quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, who he overspent on during the draft. And, much like Olivia Munn, Aaron Rodgers isn't enough for you. So you're going to have to expand and get out a little bit. So that's all we have for this previous week's matchup. Basically, what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to worst lineup decision of the week. And this is special. I got 3 highlighted segment. I want to know what you were thinking. We're going to start it off with this owner I just highlight, Troy Christmas. Troy, looking at your team, I want to know what you were thinking when you played D.D. Westbrook. 8.5 points. Could have been worse. It was D.D. Westbrook that you threw in there in a flex. Don't really understand the move. You picked up Kiki Cutie. You picked him up for a reason and then left him on your bench. You decided to go with D.D. Westbrook. The only person in this league who should ever see D.D. is Kevin and Mike. Nobody else has a right to be anywhere near a DD anywhere in this league. It's an 8-person league. DD Westbrook should not be owned. Moving on here to another want to know what you were thinking. We're going over to Andy. Andy. Want to know what you were thinking when you left Joe Mixon with 20.5 points on your bench? Couldn't even fit him in a flex. This is Joe Mixon we're talking about. Why the love loss? You started Calvin Ridley, whose touches have been down. Everything's been down with Calvin Ridley. Just kind of chasing points there. And I know I'm not pulling punches here, but it's Joe Mixon, people. Want to know what you were thinking. Finally, we're going to go over to Kevin O'Brien. Kevin. Andrew Luck against New England, and he stays on your bench. Couldn't even make it in there. You had 2 quarterback spots, and you picked 2 people over Andrew Luck. You just left 22 points on the bench. I mean, not a big swing, but I want to know what you were thinking. Finally, honorable mention, Joe, you were playing me, and you didn't start Isaiah Crowell? I mean, you probably shouldn't. I mean, no one saw that coming, the 2 touchdowns over 200-yard game. But I guess I do know what you were thinking. You were thinking he wasn't going to have that great of a game. Yeah, that's understandable. But 30 points on the bench. That'll hurt you. All right, let's move on here. All right. Now looking forward, let's look to the future. Admittedly, we're going to look at this week's matchups, go matchup by matchup, and break it down. Let's see what's going on this week with the Gentle Gentleman League. All right. Matchups are going to start off right here with a review of one of my favorite matchups this week. Let me see what it is. Yeah, it's me versus Ramsey. This is going to be an interesting one. There's only a 12-point favorite for Ramsey here, which means I could pull off the win. You do know I'm a Kingslayer. That's something that I showed you against Mike. My team is capable of beating other teams when they're having their worst week, and I have a decent pretty much my best week. Statistically improbable, but I mean, I mean, there's a chance. All that I need is Melvin Gordon, one of his aces in the whole weekly, to go up against that Cleveland defense and just get completely stopped. He's starting Phillip Rivers and Melvin Gordon. If Cleveland defense can do what they did against Joe Flacco and the Ravens and just hold them to basically no touchdowns and few yardage, that could play really well in my favor, and that's what I'm hoping for. Another key here is Alvin Kamara's on your bench. Your best player's on his bench. He's on a bye, so I understand why. Don't get me wrong. But the point is, I don't have to go up against Alvin Kamara. When Ramsey beat the rest of you guys, Alvin Kamara was one of the main reasons he did so. So, I mean, I could pull it off. I got to call on my Angels here. I got to call on Andy Dalton, who, as many of you know, I picked up off waivers to replace an injured Tyrod Taylor. Andy Dalton's been good, but he's going to have to be masterful against Pittsburgh's defense. I really want to see him come to life and really be the reason I win this week. Just do something. And David Johnson, he's going up against Minnesota, so I can't expect too much, but I need production from him. I'm justifying him by putting him in my lineup. I need to see something that's going to prove that he should be in that lineup. I spent my very first pick over him. I picked him over guys like Kamara. I picked him over him. And that's going to really show, and it's already showing on my team, that my stud, it's not there. Come alive, David Johnson. Come alive. All right, let's go over just one matchup over here. We got a great matchup against the 4-1 Bible Thugs and Harmony against the Cleveland Clowns. Now, you've heard how big I've been on John's team this week and this year overall. And honestly, looking at this matchup, I don't know if Andy's going to be hung or if Andy's going to be impaled or if he's going to be hung and then impaled. But the point is, John's going to pull off the win. Doesn't matter what version you're coming from. John is going to beat Andy. That's pretty clear cut. You look at the guys that John has in his lineup. You look at Carson Wentz, who's been solid for him. Carson Wentz is a solid fantasy football player. Saquon Barkley. Come on. These are guys that are going to explode. These guys have star power. These are the reasons that John is a competitor week after week after week. As for Andy, I mean, hopefully he doesn't beat you by 50 cubic feet is all I can say. You're 4-1, but there's a lot of question marks in your lineup week after week. Your quarterbacks, I feel like I'm beating a dead drum with the quarterbacks, always bashing on Andy's quarterbacks. But he's got Alex Smith. You saw what Alex Smith did against the freaking Saints defense? He's a game manager. He is not a fantasy quarterback. I don't care what you say. Moving on here. Let's look at another matchup. Joe and Troy. Now, Joe, I got to give it to him. He beat me this week, but he is only a 1-4 team. And as much as I love to crap on Troy might do something here. Don't get me wrong. He's favored to lose by 20 points right now. But let's not count Troy out. He's one win away from being a 500 level team. He makes some mistakes. He chases points a lot. He'll pick up guys off waivers. He'll overreact. But overall, this is a guy who has people on his team who can perform. Will they all perform at the same time? I don't know. That's going to be something that's always fun to watch with Troy's matchups. Always disappointing, but maybe sometimes he'll pull it off. He has 2 wins. That's more than I can say. As for Joe, he's looking desperately for that second win, and I think he's going to have to rely on his running back, James White. Going up against Kansas City on Sunday night, James White's going to really have to come into the spotlight and show why he is the pass-catching back in New England. Tom Brady has to have his trust. Tom Brady has to know he's the guy that he can go to on those third downs. This is a 2-back system with Sony and James White. James White has put up big numbers since Burkhead went down, and he's going to have to continue it for the sake of Joe's team here. All right, that final matchup of the week, we're going to the O'Brien household to look at the matchup between Michael and Kevin. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. Mike's got this one in the bag. We have to assume so. I would like to look for a reason to go with Kevin's team here, and the only thing I have is that Mike's team is like in sync. Bye. He's got Michael Thomas on the bench because of his bye. He's got Drew Brees on his bench because of his bye, and Marvin Jones on the bench because of his bye. A big part of Mike's teams is his Saints stack. That Drew Brees, Michael Thomas stack is a huge part of his success and why he's leading the team in points and wins this season. The reason I beat him in the week I did was because that stack kind of underperformed. It had its lowest week, and that's when I attacked. So Kevin could sneak one in over here. He could. I mean, we have people in Mike's starting lineup that you usually wouldn't see in Mike's starting lineup. He pulled up Jameis Winston off, who's going to be starting in spot of Drew Brees on his bye. We don't know what Jameis Winston's going to do. I realize he's going up against Atlanta, but this is Jameis Winston. A major step down from Drew Brees. I don't care how you slice it here. And for Kevin, the key to his victory is just going to come down to studs have to be studs for him. Studs have to be studs. He has quarterback Jared Goff of the Los Angeles Rams and running back Todd Gurley of the Los Angeles Rams going up against Denver this week. Now, unbiased, Denver is an up-and-down defense, but they have shut down fantasy players, especially running backs. They do that. That's what they're known for. So his studs are going to have to be studs if he's going to have it, if he has any chance of beating Mike. And I know that's what he wants. I know that's what he desires here deep down in his heart, to just pull off this win. This is his biggest win. This is his biggest thing. He's got to make smart lineup decisions as well. He needs any help he can get. Andrew Luck against the New York Jets, is that a play you go with over Jared Goff with the Denver Broncos? That's his decision. Personally, I think you gotta stick with your studs here, but that's something that he's gonna have to go with. So that's gonna do it for the upcoming week matchup here. Just gonna move on at this time. Power rankings. All right, folks, it's that time. Usually this is the decision that's made between both me and Michael, but today I will be making these decisions by myself. So what I say stands. This is the official recognition of the Triple G podcast. Let's start at the back. One of the people who I think deserves to be here, it's not shocking anybody that they're here, is me. I'm not going to lie. I'm there again. And it's not very hard to see why. Nobody does as bad as me. I'm consistently putting up the fewest points in this league. It's not even close anymore. I mean, the fact that I even pulled off that one win against Mike might be my Super Bowl this year. That's all I have to hold on to. I don't have a star. I don't have star power on my lineup. For an 8-person fantasy league, you need to have stars. You need to have studs. You need to have guys you can rely on, not people you're pulling off waivers and throwing in your lineup. You're never going to win that way. Well, you could get super lucky, but most likely you're not going to win that way. I just had so many dart throws at the draft that I missed. I don't think I'll recover. And this is the first time I'm saying that. Usually I stick by my guys, but I mean, I missed. That's the bottom line. Kenyon Drake, I missed. Marquise Goodwin, that was a miss. Russell Wilson, that was a miss. My biggest stud on my team is Dalvin Cook, and I really need him this week. I really do. Or else I'm not going to be able to move on. One of the things I was pretty proud of was throwing in Corey Clement off waivers. I thought that was a good move. So hopefully that is a reward. Number 7, not a shock here. Sticking in the number 7 spot, we got Troy. I don't think that's shocking anybody, really. Troy has some impressive stuff, some flashy players, some decent moves that I think could land him to be a little bit more impressive. I mean, moving forward, it's not a bad team. He's one of the guys that is always hounding the waiver wire, and that's why Troy he makes some flashy moves. You got to give it to him. He has a little bit of pizzazz on his team. Pizzazz isn't going to land him in that top spot, but it might be enough to get him in that top 4 and maybe make a run at it. You never know. I think Troy has a lot more hope than the guy one spot behind him. I honestly do. One spot ahead of Troy, we got Joe. Joe, I mean, you've been the greatest fall so far. I mean, your record isn't entirely reflective of what you can do week after week here, but it's a little indicative of why you're in that number 6 spot. There's things I like on Joe, but at a lot of the time, he has question marks, and I rely on that a lot. I say that a lot, but if you go look at Joe's roster, you look at his receivers, those guys are question marks. Even what I would consider stud quarterbacks, they're guys that tend to disappear with Cam Newton and Derek Carr. I mean, yeah, Cam Newton's been amazing, and Derek Carr's been pretty impressive, albeit garbage time, but still impressive. But those are guys that could disappear on a minute's notice. He has some guys on his bench, I think guys that are going to have a bigger second half. But as of right now, that's why you're in that number 6 spot. This one's a little bit more of a shocker. We see some movement here coming in at the number 5 spot.
Kevin.
Yeah, I mean that's a big one. That's one of the people that people think is one of the more impressive teams. I think he has the persona of being one of the more impressive teams, but not on this podcast. We have to see it. That's enough.
Kevin.
I can't get this.
Kevin.
Hold on. Just shoot.
Kevin.
Okay.
Kevin.
Okay, we're good. So I think he's one of those people who really have to earn it. He has the team, but if you go look at the points, you see why he is there, and you're saying, well, he should at least have that number 4 spot locked down. But Kevin has to get it right. He's declined overall. This is a get right week for Kevin. If you want to continue to climb and show me why you're top 4. I already anticipate the conversation coming this Sunday when you pull me aside and you complain about this number 5 spot. But show me why you should be higher with how you set your lineup and how you make your decisions. You have to make the tough decisions to be as one of these top 4, or you could just be truly blessed like Ramsey's team. But for most fantasy owners, decision-making is what's going to land you in that top 4 spot and that top 3 power ranking. So, you know what that means? Coming in at number 4, Andy. What? Andy? Are you kidding me? He's 4-1. You're going to put the 4-1 player in the 4th spot. Yeah, he's playing with a lot weaker of a division. Division play matters. It's fantasy, but it does. Andy has some holes. Andy has weak quarterbacks. I'm beating that dead drum. Beating a drum until it's dead. I don't know what the expression is. Point is, Andy's got some stuff to figure out. He has question marks that he plays in flex week after week. You look at a team like Mike, you look at a team like Ramsey, you see those flex. Those are solid flex plays. You look at Andy's team, you see he's kind of throwing darts sometimes, which is why he isn't ranked higher. Total point-wise, yeah, I mean, this is a little disrespectful. Overall record-wise, this was a big shock, but I knew this is where I had to put him because this is power rankings. And in that number 4 and in that number 3 spot is John. That's right, John. This is a team I'm really big on. John has made the right moves. John is like Phoenix, rising. Look at his team. Look at his team. He is the number 1 kicker in the league, the number 1 quarterback in the league, the number 2 tight end, the number 4 running back, and the number 6 receiver. And they're all continuing to do better. Week after week, his players keep getting better. Look at Saquon Barkley. A dart throw for a first pick. No one knew what he was going to do. He's a rookie, but John's the guy who rolled the dice. John rolled the dice on Mahomes. John rolled dice at the draft. You know who else rolled dice at the draft? Me. But sometimes dice are mean, and sometimes they're generous. Go play Settlers of Catan when you're stuck with a whole bunch of sheep, and nobody's going to trade with you because the dice were mean. The dice were mean to me this week. The dice were nice to John. He's got plenty of wood. He's got plenty of brick. John's making the longest road to the fantasy Super Bowl. Number 2, Ramsey. Ramsey's got a high ceiling. There's nothing you can't like about this guy, except for this guy. But other than that, he's got a high ceiling team. You look at those guys, the sky's the limit for so many of the players on his team. He is in the number 2 spot because he has that solid week after week. Every guy that he puts in his starting lineup, you're afraid of, and you know you're afraid of it. I'm afraid of him going up against them this week. I just got to hope that his team underperforms. My team can't rise to meet him, and I think that's a lot of people when they play Ramsey. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's Mike. But yeah, Mike, his team's really good this year. This is one for the ages. This is a Hall of Fame year type team. Just so many things he got right at the draft. I mean, you look at the disrespect this league overall gave Michael Thomas at the draft. So many people passed on. I passed on him twice. And Mike was the guy who, he picked the guys he should at the draft. I mean, that's coming to work for him. The only way Mike's gonna get out of this spot is if he shoots himself in the foot, if he makes some stupid trade or maybe somebody gets injured. But I mean, as things stand, I don't see anybody snatching this crown from him. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for power rankings. Feel free to DM me or come at me in the group chat. I don't care. I'm not a part of this league anymore. But we do have one more thing before we leave here today, and we have a very special guest. We're going to go ahead and bring her on here shortly. Just hold. All right, at this time, we're going to head to the phones and take a call from a very special guest. Let's see. Megan, are you with me?
Hello.
Hello. How's it going tonight?
Hey, I'm doing good. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm actually driving right now.
So. No problem. So am I, driving this podcast with Mike not here.
Okay.
But yeah, just giving you a call out, hoping the sound quality turns out all right. For those of you who do not know, Megan, would you like to introduce yourself to the podcast here?
Sure. My name is Megan Ross, and I am married to John Ross.
Perfect. As many of you know, John Ross is the owner of the Cleveland Clowns in our franchise here. So first question for you. Who's really running the Cleveland Clowns there in the Ross household?
Oh, gosh, definitely John.
You don't have much...
Oh, go ahead.
You don't have much say in roster decisions?
No, not that I would really be any help at all. I mean, John knows everything sports and impresses me greatly with the knowledge that he possesses in any sport really out there.
Okay. So he's not coming to you with lineup decisions?
No, not really. I mean, he talked to me a little bit about people he wanted on his team when he first started, and I remember we were driving in the car when he was trying to draft, and he's like, oh, I really wanted this person. Oh, somebody snatched that person up. So I just hear a lot of commentary, but I don't really help with any of the decisions.
Does it keep John up at night? Is it hard for him to sleep through the night knowing Ramsey's comments that have been made about him?
I don't think it really keeps him up any later than normal. He's usually up pretty late, but I do occasionally hear him laughing and snickering, or he'll come into the room and say, guess what Ramsey said, and say, oh, do you want to hear the comment that I said back to him? And sometimes no. Sometimes he tells me, and they're pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, that's our group chat for you.
Yeah.
So how do you, as the woman behind the franchise here, support John in his fantasy football, let's call it addiction?
Well, I watch football all the time because of John. So I have been well-versed in teams and people and teams that he likes and dislikes and stuff like that. So I usually root for any team that he's rooting for, the people he's rooting for. I have come to dislike the Patriots because he dislikes the Patriots. And I have come to love the Colts because he loves the Colts. The only people that I cannot root for are the Green Bay Packers because I'm a Vikings fan. So that's the only one where we differ. But otherwise, yes, I do support him and his teams, and I like rooting for them with him.
Good to hear. Is it hard for John knowing he's not going to win the whole thing?
Who says he's not going to win the whole thing?
Statistics.
Well, I'm his wife, so I have to be optimistic.
You think he's got a chance at it this year?
I don't know. I would like to hope so, but I think he picks really good people and he thinks about it and researches it. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of other great people out there that are doing really well. So I don't know. I don't know if he'll make it, but I'll definitely be rooting for him along the way.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today, Megan.
You're welcome, Jacoby. I hope the rest of the podcast goes great.
All right. Thank you, and you have a good night.
You too. I can't wait to hear it.
Bye.
Bye.
That was Megan Ross, wife of John Ross, owner of the Cleveland Crowns? No crowns there. They're not winning. Cleveland Clowns. We'll be right back after